team that it brings a bit of a tear to the eyes. Toronto Raptors are not playing very well in the NBA playoffs. Paul Pierce has become enemy number one.
That's why he's here.
The nemesis, the truth, hitting big shots.
Well, except if you're Drake, right? Then you're best friends.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that handshake. What's going wrong?
Well, we had the chance to talk to Masai at the beginning of the year when they came to Montreal, and they kind of fell in that situation, right? They traded Rudy Gay, and by accident they became competitive in the East. And I don't think there's a lot of talent on this team. I don't think there's enough talent to contend for a championship. And I mean, the way the NBA is set up, it's either you're really good or you're not good at all, so you can rebuild. And I'm not sure in which direction the Raptors are going right now.
Mm-hmm. Phil, one word that's kind of been thrown out is the first 2 months of the season when the Raptors were really rolling. I'd say fool's gold when they weren't playing the most competitive teams, a lot of lower class East teams. I mean, do people have a right to be kind of shocked right now in terms of how they're not doing well in the playoffs?
I think if you didn't look at who they had on the schedule, maybe. But as you astutely pointed out earlier on this season, they had a bit of an easy first run, right? And they were healthy. Well, tomorrow maybe not, but I don't know. I just think, as you were saying, this team, and I think this was Paul Pierce, we brought this on last week's show, I just don't think they have that top line guy. As good as Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan is, to me, they're a good number two option. And I know there's a lot of Toronto Raptors fans who are not going to want to hear this, but this is my opinion. I think they need that guy. I think they actually thought that Rudy Gay would be that guy, but he never stepped up. And yes, they're better, addition by subtraction that way, and they have great depth. But I think the reason they're this good is that they have two, maybe three B guys and a great, supporting cast. This team is really just missing that one superstar. And I think the unspoken truth, to me anyways, and I was speaking with Mike Rumberg from HoopsLounge.com, one of our writers, is JV, as much as you want to say he doesn't play the fourth, it's third year. He's not turning into the superstar a lot of people thought he'd be.
Not progressing.
And I think their patience with him and Terrence Ross, instead of moving on and getting that, quintessential star in that front court, is what's really hurting them right now.
With Wendy, if you were Masai Ujiri, a lot of question marks in the offseason, what would you do?
Well, like Phil just said, I mean, we have guys that still has some value in the league. I would start thinking about moving a guy like Terrence Ross. Big man takes longer to develop. We're seeing what Nick Vucevic is doing in Orlando right now. I would maybe wait a little more on Jonas. But I've been disappointed in Terrence Ross, and we need that secondary scorer. We can't have Kyle Lowry taking as many shots as he is right now, and we need to move on on the Terrence Ross case, definitely.
Phil, I mean, you love to play GM.
I love playing GM. I just don't think you're going to get enough for Terrence Ross. I've been saying since the I hate to say it, guys, but since the All-Star game, Kyle Lowry's got to go.
Wow.
Look.
Face of the franchise.
He made an All-Star game. He's on a $12 million affordable contract, and he can run a team. That has to bring value in the open market. Still 28, 29, still can bring some good years. You trade him to a team that needs to win now. Imagine the Dallas Mavericks with Kyle Lowry kind of thing, right? That kind of situation. You pull some draft picks or pull a young player that needs a couple more years to develop, because let's not forget, their team is young, right? So they could, they're stuck in this. I think the early part of the season kind of did them in. They've been so good and last year that they can't have that letdown. They're building the brand so hard that where they should be stepping back to take two steps forward, they just want to take one step at a time. And I think their path that way is the road's going to end sooner than they think.
But aren't the fans smart enough? I mean, we've seen OKC build for the same way. We've seen Milwaukee. I mean, we've been talking about.
But OKC also had one of the best drafts in recent history. I mean, within 4 or 5 years, you land Durant, Harden, Westbrook. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'd be talking to the Toronto Raptors in a completely different light if those were the three instead of
absolutely.
The three.
Vince Tracy and whoever. Yeah, it happens, and then you see how fragile this league is. I mean, people leave teams right away, and there's not a lot of stability like the Spurs. The Spurs are just an outlier in terms of how they develop guys for 10, 15 years.
They also got lucky and fall into Tim Duncan right after David Robinson. I mean,
right.
You need that franchise player. You need to go after him, and one of the best way to get it is the draft. And I think we need to break it down and start from scratch.
Interesting point by Eric Koreen, writer in Toronto. He said that the player most likely the Raptors will be bringing back next season is Bruno. something to think about. Last point we'll bring up.
And my favorite Raptor.
Yeah.
Same here.
Last point.